And as any good businessman will know, time is money. Time management is key. So I intend that we keep to time here. But we have 4 speakers with diverse backgrounds today. We have Mazi Afamosikwe, SAN, who will be speaking for 30 minutes as the lead speaker. We have Charles Ajiboye of the Penthouse Law. We have Rakiba Oloko, who everybody knows as lawyers in oil and gas. And we have Victor Befa, and from Perebiega, Ajoko and Co., all the way from Bayelsa State. So we have young lawyers here who are also entrepreneurs, and we have people who are also showing their entrepreneurial skills in other diverse areas that are also associated or related to the practice of law. So without further ado, I would invite Charles Ajiboye to speak to us for 10 minutes on efficient networking for legal practice. So I leave the floor to Charles.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Good morning, everybody. Chairman, can you just wave if you are hearing me? I just want to be sure every other person is hearing me. Perfect. Thank you very much, sir. And well, I didn't expect that I was going to come first. I was looking anxiously and anticipating that the learned Silk and lead speaker will open the floor. And I thought I was going to be able to steal from whatever he would have said. You know, I'm always privileged to speak last in most of this kind of big brain forum. So usually I have nothing to say. I just say I adopt all the things that my learned seniors have already said, and then I take my seat. But the chairman is putting me on spot today, and I think it twisted my topic, because I was told earlier on that I should focus on personal and business branding for lawyers. You know, that was the niche I was asked to focus on. But generally speaking, I expected that most of the people that would speak before me would have covered all of that space. And so I'll just touch on some points generally as it relates to law practice as a business. So I'll focus on law practice as a business. I will try to niche into personal and business branding. But before I go on, let me say a big and doff my hats to my learned senior, Mrs. Rakiba Oloko. I do not know if Sotobina is online yet, but I salute you, sir. And I will just go ahead and share some thoughts. It is no more news that we are in an era some people call post-COVID, but I've always said there's nothing like post-COVID. We are in COVID, and we are going to be in COVID for quite a long time, meaning that COVID has come and is here to stay. But I also think that the new normal is also, a little bit underestimated, because people make it look like the new normal just has to do with remote working remotely, doing meetings and conferences virtually. Of course, it's a lot more than that. And I will set this as a background. A lot of things are happening now all over the world. But more importantly, and more important than what is happening, is actually what is going on. And a lot of us are focused on what is happening and are taking our eyes off what exactly is going on. We are in the beginning of a new decade. And whether we like it or not, COVID has just become a blessing that has brought a lot of things ahead of their time. So things that should have happened 5 years to come, things that should be happening 10 years to come, what COVID has done is that it has brought them to happen now. It has made them to happen now. And then, like the chairman of the session has said, the only people that will leverage and take advantage and they will move ahead in the time we are in are the people that will take the bull by the horn, and that they will become active doers. They will take actions per time, and then they will understand that COVID has changed things. Now, niching it into law practice, Nigeria particularly, like we have also had in the introduction, is a lot disadvantaged in the nature of the way things work for us. We have so much population vis-a-vis our revenue. So when you talk about GDP, a lesser population, I would say in a very casual manner that it will mean that a fewer number of persons make much more money. That would mean that those fewer people are more valuable. And if you divide the revenue per number of persons, you'll find out that the complaints about lawyers' earnings, the complaint about clients, the way clients pay and treat lawyers, the complaint about the way economy treats lawyers, you find that it just makes sense vis-a-vis the amount of money that we are all clamoring for. Now, that is going to always happen in every community. In every place, there will always be a competition. There will always be competition, and lawyers must understand that this is also a competition. Some kind of a competition. Yes, it's a friendly competition because we are colleagues and we are supposed to work together very smoothly. But then we all have to understand that it's a competition of who can communicate better, who can deliver better value. And let me even say, who can deliver perceived better value. Because at some point, you find out that everybody can deliver some level of equal value. But there must be a perception, and that's where the branding comes in, that your delivery of that value is going to be better, more effective or efficient than somebody else's. Now, how do you achieve that perception? And I always say something all the time. I say perception is even greater than reality. What people think about you is a lot more than what you really are. And if you are better than what people think about you, the fact that you are better may not be of any substantial economic value. What is really important in business is that you are perceived the way you want to be perceived. You are perceived the way you want to be priced. You are perceived the way you want to attract clients. And that is where the personal branding comes into play. And that is where the business branding, the law business branding comes to play. In the new normal that we are in, lawyers and law firms must, people talk about a lot about specialization and all of that. I won't call it specialization. I will call it authority. And you can do a lot of things. You can be a general practitioner, but you must somehow be a voice. Beyond you just talking, beyond you just being everywhere, you must be visible and you must be a voice, you must be an authority. And that's what's going to be required in the new normal. I said something in a particular forum where I had an opportunity of sharing recently. And I talked about the rise of the underdogs. The underdogs don't necessarily mean young people. The underdogs really mean people that ordinarily should not be on the table. People that do not have the privileged background, the silver spoons, all the connections. People that do not have all the money. People that do not have all the degrees. They are going to rise. They are going to take charge. They are going to be relevant in our industry, in our practice, and in our country. And what is going to make them relevant is not because they have money or connection. Like I said, they are the underdogs. They are going to rise because they are going to understand the time that we are in. They are going to understand the season that we are in. They are going to understand the effect of perception. They are going to understand the benefits of branding, and they are going to present themselves as an authority and they are going to be visible to a larger number of people. And because they are more visible, because they are an authority, they will attract clientele, they will attract resources, and they will be on the tables that people never thought they could sit on. Because what is going to happen when there is a recession like this? When there is all the things that COVID-19 has caused, what is going to happen, or what has happened, is that there's a shrinking of opportunities. There's a shrinking of resources. And then already, like the statistics that we're greeted with in the beginning, we find out that the opportunities already for us in this part of the world were already very small. We're more compared to not compared to the number of people that are Nigerians, we're more compared to the revenue, the GDP, how much we make as a country. And then we still have a lot of infrastructural issues. Because when you call a country a third world country, it's third world because there's no access to credit, it's third world because there are no equal opportunities, it's third world because the things are not working fine, standard of living is poor. That's all those things are real for us here. And then despite all of that, we have now come into a season, which we all call the new normal, where opportunities, those scarce opportunities already for those of us in this part of the world are now even shrinking. You will need to be visible. And to be visible, you will need to build a perception of the kind of person you are. And of course, you really cannot build a perception that you really are not. So it means that you have to develop capacity. And then when you develop that capacity, you will have to show it forth. Now, I say this all the time. I say there is no point winking in the dark. Because when you wink in the dark, nobody sees you. And so if you are going to wink at all, you have to understand that you will have to be visible. And that is the first thing I will say very, very emphatically. You must be visible. Whatsoever it is you are doing in the new normal, whatever you are doing in time we are in now, you must be visible. You must be visible. And you must be visible, creating the kind of perception that you want for people to associate with you. You have to be able to rethink the strategies with which you want to be visible, the strategies with which you want to create what kind of perceptions that you want to have. A couple of years ago, I remember sharing at an MBA platform, and I said there is a rebellion that is going to happen, and that rebellion is going to be more of the underdogs, more of this time around, more of the young lawyers who will try to take their destinies in their hands, who will try to reject a lot of things. There's been a lot of clamor around. Young lawyers are being poorly paid, are being badly treated. The chairman of the session will know, and I know many of the seniors of the session will understand that whether we like it or not, that rebellion is already happening. You find out that people walk out, young lawyers now walk out from interviews, they resign and walk out from jobs, they refuse to apply in some places, they name and shame certain seniors and certain law firms, and then they are taking the destinies in their hand. That is also going to be part of the new normal. And then if you are also going to play in the big league, as a lawyer, you understand that your business must play the big deal. You will be concerned about that perception as well. It's part of the branding of your law firm. How do you want your law firm to be known? There are some particular companies, oil companies, banks, and all of those things that have the character of poaching lawyers from certain law firms now. The reason they do that is because they have a perception that the lawyers in those law firms are really good. And they also understand that the lawyers in those law firms are also properly compensated. And so they look out to go and poach from them. Now, that also is some kind of branding, because if they cannot get you, they will come and pay for you. And then you have to become an authority for that to happen. You have to be consistent. And then another thing I'll talk about is clarity. You have to have it has to be clear what exactly you are doing. Like the chairman said, we are in a business. This is the business of law. And in the business of law, like every other business, you don't come there simply because you want to call the law, you want to be happy, you want to wear suits all around town. That's not the whole essence of being a lawyer. You want to be socially relevant, you want to help people, you want to contribute to your community. But beyond that, you have to have clarity about the fact that you are running a business, and you should run it as a business. Now, the question of how business are going to be run, or how business should be run, is not something I can take in this session. But you need to run your law practice as a business. And you need to also understand the currencies of the new normal, which is to learn, to relearn, to unlearn. And that means as a business, you have to be consistently changing. You have to be fluid. You have to be able to learn, unlearn, and relearn. I always give this analogy that if someone, for example, is traveling to Abuja and is going by road, and he enters a bus going to Imo State, and he's trying all the while he's in the bus to sit well, to do his makeup well, to do a makeup well, to press the phone well, to adjust so that I can arrive well. All the person is doing is wasting time, because that bus is going to the wrong destination. And that is the part of learning, unlearning, and relearning. And that has to be something that we all do all the time as lawyers. You have to have that in your nature. And I'll say this also, because I'm also conscious of time branding for your business branding, your law practice. We all talk about technology and technology and technology and technology and digitization. And this is beyond emails, this is beyond websites, this is beyond social media, this is everything combined together. And unfortunately for us all, the way the world is now is that all of those things must happen together. You have to be able to master all those things together. You have to understand. I call it techno-crazy. You have to become techno-crazy, and you have to be techno-craving. So it means that if you are not tech-craving, you are not tech-crazy in the time that we are in now. Okay. So I'm saying that every law firm now, we have to be able to trash the box. That's the big thing we have now. We have a law practice and a law system in the country that is extremely conservative. Our law practice in Nigeria is very conservative. I remember being on a panel that had about 4 justices of Court of Appeal and the Supreme Court. And I remember a particular one of them who said, I understand that we can take certain things, virtually, but I don't know how we're going to be able to do trial, real trial. We are going to have to find a way around it, because The real line now is online, and then offline actually is the extra. And those that are mastering it are the ones that are going to be the pioneers at this stage. We have to think about how we digitize every area of our practice. For any lawyer that is going to be worth his onions in the new normal, this is the biggest opportunity we have had. And let me say something real quick before I just hang up. 2020, none of us was prepared for COVID. It was the end of the decade, but none of us was prepared for COVID. But 2019 was relatively good. And so you find out that the remnants of 2019 buffered 2020. What do I mean? You find out that once the lockdown started and the COVID era started, you found billionaires doling in money, people coming out with a lot of charitable stuff, people trying to create centers for isolation. Everybody was trying to rise up to the occasion. But now we are told that the second wave is out. We are also told, and we have come to understand, that the second wave is deadlier than the first one. We all see the numbers of infected people rising much more than it rose in the first time. But have we noticed that for us as a country, there's still no lockdown? All those fund donations are not coming in. How do you justify the fact that something worse is happening and is getting lesser attention? It's either because people are now used to it and they are working and dealing with it, or because people do not have as much reserve as they had in 2019 to buffer 2020, to buffer 2021. And whether we like it or not, that will keep 2021 a lot more naked with more scarce resources than we had in 2020. And whether we like it or not, this will happen for the rest of 2021 and may spill into 2022. And so as lawyers, it will be very, very important for us to begin to think about an effective way to insulate ourselves. Become an authority. Don't just sound. Become a voice. In the new normal and in the future that we are coming into now, you will find out that firms that have never been known will be known. Lawyers that have never been known will shine. And somehow, those that have always held the mantle will fade away. They will fade away not because they would have lost their steam. They will fade away not because they have lost their taste. They will fade away because that is what will happen by the nature of things. The same way COVID came and changed things without permission, life will change practice. Life will change the business space. Life will replace the big guns as we know them, and then there will be nothing we can do about it. But for anybody that wants to take advantage of that, it will be to begin to learn, to unlearn, to relearn, and then to position and understand that in the new normal, you have to be an authority, you have to be a voice, you have to be visible, and you have to be visible for the quality of your content, and much more importantly, for the originality of your content. Because you find out, especially in the legal space, because we all have similar kinds of education, the difference between one lawyer and the other is experience. And then the next thing that is different between one lawyer and the other is the application of what we know, the application of knowledge. Many times, lawyers do not communicate the application of their knowledge, they just communicate the fact that they are lawyers and they communicate the experience. In the new season we have come into now, lawyers will have to communicate the originality, the uniqueness, the difference in their own application. Because in the end, we are all celebrated for our uniqueness, not for our similarities. Anything that is similar, anything that is common is often not of much value. But when we communicate our difference, when we communicate our uniqueness in a way that shows originality of content, then you find out that we will be able to thrive in the space we are in. I think I've worked within my time, and I thank you very much, Afba Wildlife, for this opportunity. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, thanks a lot, Charles, for that riveting session and your thoughts. Some of the things I gathered were that you say the young lawyers want to take their destiny into their hands. Well, that's encouraged for everyone. Everybody should do their best to do that. But they will have to do it with the right tools and also with the right skills. It's important. I also note that you spoke about originality of your content and your thoughts. That obviously is going to be important as we go ahead under the present climate. Originality is what will set you apart from the man next door who is doing what everyone else is doing. You spoke about the rise of the underdogs. Yes, I mean, everybody wants a seat at the table. And I think it's there for the taking for anyone who does that with intention. So you also spoke about you must be a voice and authority. That obviously is a given. I mean, otherwise, why would you even want to practice? In any endeavor in life, I would believe you want to be a voice and authority. Otherwise, I wouldn't believe that's a passion or a calling. But thank you for your time. I'd also like to just mention again that Charles Ezebosi is the executive partner at the Penthouse Law and immediate past publicity secretary of the Nigerian Bar Association, Ikeja. Like I mentioned earlier, after we will do the question and answer session, we'll have 20 minutes for that at the end of all the presentations. But we'll go back now and take the presentation of our lead speaker. As mentioned earlier, our lead speaker is Mazi Afam Osigwe, SAN. Mazi Osigwe obtained his Bachelor of Laws degree from the University of Nigeria in 1997. I was called to the bar in 1999. He started his legal practice with Chike Chigwe & Co., Abuja, in 1999, and is presently the senior partner of the law firm, which he founded in 2002. He became a notary public of the Supreme Court of Nigeria. In 2007, he obtained a Master's of Laws degree from the University of Jos. He holds a diploma in international commercial arbitration and is currently a doctorate student at the University of Jos. He is also a fellow of the Chartered Institute of Arbitrators, UK. At various times, Mazi Osigwe SAN has had cause to carry out research in various areas of the law, including corporate and business law, land law, banking law, intellectual property, international commercial law, telecommunications, oil and gas, domestic arbitration, and international commercial arbitration. As a member of the Nigerian Bar Association Abuja, he had at various times had the privilege to serve in various committees, such as the Law Reporting Committee in 2003 to 2005, Bar Dinner Awards Committee in 2004, and Secretary Committee on Continuing Legal Education from 2005 to 2007, and from 2009 till 2010. He has also had the honor of being part of the executive committee of the Unity Bar as publicity secretary from 2006 to 2008. He was the chairman of the Nigerian Bar Association Abuja branch from 2011 to 2013, and former general secretary of the Nigerian Bar Association for 2014 and 2016. Mazi Afam Osigwe was called to the inner bar in 2020. I welcome my friend and able senior advocate of Nigeria, Mazi Osigwe, to speak to us on entrepreneurial and entrepreneurial skills of the young lawyer. Mazi Osigwe, you have the floor.
Thank you so very much, Tony, and thank you for chairing this session. I've been listening from the sidelines, and I think it's been an interesting session. And I'm glad. My appreciation also goes to the leadership of the African Bar Association Young Lawyers Forum for inviting me to speak on this topic. It couldn't have come at a better time. I listened to the last speaker, Charles, and he talked about the effect of COVID-19. And he did mention, and I very much agree with him, that 2019 may be better than 2020. I hope I got that correctly. And it drives home the importance of legal practitioners, whether young or old, appreciating the importance of the fact that the practice of law is a business. And unless we get that into our heads, we may never really be able to keep our head above water at these trying times. I've been asked to speak on the topic, intrapreneurial and entrepreneurial skills of young lawyers. I wouldn't want to take so much of our time delving into definitions, but let me just say that from my research, the word intrapreneurial skills or entrepreneurial first appeared in the article written by Gifford and Elizabeth Pinchot, titled Entrepreneuring, Why You Don't Have to Leave the Corporation to Become an Entrepreneur. And in that work, they defined entrepreneurs as dreamers who do. In other words, they describe them as people who take an in-house and they take in-house entrepreneurship. So they are more like employees, people who are employed in businesses to bring innovative ideas. So why not being business owners themselves in their capacity as workers or employers in a business organization? They bring the skills of entrepreneurship in it. So such persons can be found in such organizations as Google, Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter. They are not the business owners, but the skills they bring in drive the business to attain the great heights they attain. And in what one of my friends and clients would call ownership spirit, they innovate within these businesses as if they were their own. While it may have its downsides, they may not make as much profit or independence of thought, or not independence to bring to bear some of the things they would want to do. It gives them an opportunity to develop a business from within while not being the owners. And entrepreneurs, as simply put, are the individuals who own businesses, who themselves may run it or may employ some other persons to run it. Now, why are these very important? These distinctions, or the emphasis on, or the need to talk about this topic. Many lawyers simply carry on living for the day, whether they are employed in law firms or they've set up their own law firms or they operate from their phones. And no insult intended there, because if you take cognizance of the fact that the law school has produced in the last 5 years an average of 6,000 lawyers every year. And less than, I don't have statistics, but I can hazard a guess, that less than 15% of these lawyers ever get employed in a law firm. Then these distinctions become very important. So a number of lawyers who come out of law school have never had any form of employment. So they set out or set up businesses on their own. They've never worked in any organized environment. And for them, it's all about, no matter how little it is, it suffices. And so when people talk about lawyers underpricing, not applying any professional skills in charging, some of these issues may be the underlying reasons, because for them it's all about making money. As long as they make money for their daily bread, as long as they make money to keep going, to buy fuel, to put food on the table, it doesn't really matter. So there's no business mindset to it. So it doesn't matter that the skills of entrepreneurship or entrepreneurship is creativity, being original, having passion, having people skills, networking. These skills are not the important thing. The understanding of the business climate and the fact that the profession itself must be treated, or the practice of the profession must be seen from a business perspective. And I like to quote Jay-Z where he said, "Man, you're a business, not a businessman." So we're not businessmen, we're not business people. But as long as we run firms, we need to pay rent, we need to pay staff, we need to have overhead, we need to turn a profit at the end of the day. We must run the practice of law with a business mindset. You must have a business plan. You must be able to do a profit and loss. You must be able to do projection. You must be able to market. And when lawyers fill their head with the misconception that the rules of professional conduct does not permit us to market, I shake my head at our poor understanding of what the rules really say. The rule does not say you shouldn't market your practice. It simply tries to put strictures on what you may do or not do. So you're not to take out advert, you're not to do certain things, but there's nothing saying that you cannot talk a few things about your qualification or that of the other lawyers in the firm. And now when we talk about entrepreneurship, it's very important, because Many lawyers work in firms believing that they are being treated, that they are in servitude. They don't see themselves as having anything to do with the success of the business, because they believe that, after all, no matter what I do, the owners of the firms take all the money. But they lose sight of the fact that if the firm doesn't make money, salaries will be owed, rent will be owed, service providers will not be paid. So the skills are important, but the mindset, I always think, is much, much more important than the skills. So you have a passion for the job, but you're undermining the place where you were employed. You have a passion, you like going to court. But in your going to court, you do not bring your business acumen to bear to make that business a success. And you're supposed to be the entrepreneur within an organization. And probably when you see potential clients, it's safer in your thinking to send them elsewhere rather than to bring them to your firm. I understand many lawyers, because of poor remuneration, engage in private practice, but that's not our concern at this point. But the point I keep making is, until we have an understanding that the practice of law is a business and that we do not need to shy away from this, and until we approach it like the business it is, whether you set sail on your own or you work in a law firm, your attitude, your mindset will affect the health of that practice. And you may work in a firm with opportunity to make partner, and then you're not pulling your weight. Tax assigned to you suffer because you feel that you do all the work and some other persons reap the benefit. It will reflect in how quick, how well you advance within the organization, because it will also reflect somewhat, if unchecked, in the overall health of the business. If law is a business, as we agree, and has actually been pronounced by the court in the case involving Hirat Balloon and the National Bank of Nigeria, lawyers must not only understand the necessary skills like network, so you attend programs and in your practice of law, you're insular, you don't engage with people, you don't seek out potential persons that may patronize your business, and you have a poor attitude, you don't have good person skills. So even when you have colleagues, you're unable to get along with them, you're unable to get along well with your clients, you're not creative. This is where we've always done it. So you sit down and you wait for the clients to come. And if they don't come, well, that's how God wants it. Or if they don't come, you say, well, people from my village are after me. They have sworn that I will never make a success of my life. And whenever I talk about such topics, I always like to tell the story from Nwaochei's well-known book, Things Fall Apart. I like to remind people how Okonkwo's father, Onoka, went to see the priestess of the Oracle of the Hills and Caves. And he went to ask and he said, why is it that my yams do not yield as much as that of every other person? Why is it that I do everything and I have not failed to achieve success? I'm not quoting him, I'm just paraphrasing. And as he was just complaining, the priestess told him that he should keep quiet and work like other men. That when other men go to seek out, go travel to 7 seas and 7 rivers to look for virgin lands to plant, he keeps planting on tired land. And that he's known for the weakness of his hoe and machete. How many of us practitioners are known for the weakness of our hoe and machetes? How many practitioners refuse to go beyond or venture beyond the known terrain to try to figure out areas where clients may need legal services that are not being provided where they practice, or an area of law that they could specialize in, or an area of law they need reading up on, knowing more about to improve their skills? How many of us fold our arms and believe that the spirits are after me or have been destined to be poor? And these may be intelligent persons who ordinarily ought to be creative, have a passion, but lack the bite or a mindset to make a success out of their practice of law. And like Onoka, they move from one spiritual house to the other. trying to find out the spiritual excuse why they have failed. How many of us? Creativity, being passionate, people skills. You see people that can help you, but you would rather spend that time in church praying. When you should be in court or drafting a court process, you are tending to things that will not advance your business. So these persons have come to you, or you're not managing them well. Even though you have knowledge of these skills, you don't put them in practice. And that's why I keep insisting that not only talking about the skills should be our focus, but emphasizing on having a mindset and an attitude that brings them to bear. Understanding that the legal practice is a business and not shying away from it, not thinking that by so doing we reduce ourselves to the level of traders. We are not traders, even though we are people in business. And that is why if a lawyer draws a check and the check is dishonored, he gets the court awards damages the same way they award to people in business or business people, because the practice of law is a business. We need to keep saying this. We need to teach our people, lawyers, to find what makes businesses tick. If you assume, what gap have you stepped into? Did you envisage that there may be a day where people may not need to sit in person in a conference as we are doing now, and we need to have a video link? You start a solution to fill that gap. In your legal practice, do you have a business plan? Do you do profit and loss? Do you check the health of your business? Do you save? Do you have a plan as to how to take care of some of the unforeseen things that may happen in the course of your practice? I do not want to take up all the time, considering that some time has been lost in earlier in me coming on stage to speak. But the point I'll make in trying to conclude, now, okay, I understand I could take a little bit more of time, is that no matter how much skills you have learned, no matter how much exposure you have learned, at the end of the day, it turns about how do you put your knowledge to use? How do you, when you work in an organization, see yourself as part of the links in a chain that must be strengthened for that organization to grow? How do you see yourself as an individual that could make a whole lot of differences, whether an employee or an employer? If you're the employer, or you have not yet employed a person and you're a business owner, how many times do you look at that business and ask yourself, if this were a machine that has an installed capacity to produce 1,000 units of a particular product per day, am I producing up to installed capacity? When you do work for clients, do you try to get feedback from them as to how well you have served them? Or when these clients give you a feedback where you haven't asked for them, do you check to make sure that these criticisms that are constructive, that you take steps to ensure that they do not occur again? And when you apply some of the skills in there to run a business and they are not working, do you ask yourself, is it possible that the application of these skills have not been properly applied? You can have all the skills in the world and make nothing of it. If, like the man in the biblical parable who hid his talent in the ground because he said his master reaps where he does not sow, why he did not sow, or he does not sow. There's no way your talent can be of any use. You were employed in a law firm because in the interview you exhibited superlative credentials and you outperformed every other person at the interview. But then you came in and felt that the business or the practice or the environment you have been employed as a lawyer does not deserve to get the best of what you have to offer. And then you hide your talent. So when issues present themselves, you avoid being the one to solve them because you're bitter. You feel that the organization should not get the best of you. And I tell people, the moment you start grumbling in your employment, the moment you feel the employment you have, if you are an entrepreneur does not deserve the best of what you have to give, don't wait to be sacked. You should leave. For another person who deserves the position to take it up. If you work in an organization where you are not the business owner, you bring your skills to make that organization to excel. You're marketing yourself. You're actually standing yourself out to be noticed by even other organizations that may snap you up and give you better remuneration than you're getting. But the most important thing is the self-development you achieve for yourself. I don't believe in rhetorics. I theoretically give you, oh, these are the skills, and these are not the skills. These are the differences. And then we do not situate it in practical situations we face. That would be a waste of everybody's time. Whether you are an intrapreneur or an entrepreneur, you must venture beyond the borders. You must go beyond that which is known. So if the law firm has always done this, do you mind trying to do it a bit differently and a bit better? See how well it turns out. If the law firm didn't used to give reports to clients, shouldn't you do that? Hold meetings with them. If they didn't used to market, even though you're not the owner of the business, how about marketing that business, introducing it, and changing things? I understand that as an employee, you may have your limitations. The owner of the business may not like them. But I assure you that when you show that these things will produce results for the business, people will listen to you. So whether you own the business, you owe it a duty to do things that will make it to succeed. And whether you employ there, you have a duty to keep it going. Because who knows? You may end up owning that business someday. Leave spirits, there's no spirit chasing you. If you're not doing well in practice, whether you're employed or not, look inwards, look inside yourself. Are you sleeping? Is there a giant within you that is sleeping that you need to wake up? Is there an intelligent person with you, inside you, that you have refused to allow to take its rightful place and give results? These things are very important, because if we see law as a business and agree it's a business, but do not practice it with a mindset of business, turning a profit, contributing our quota, giving superlative services to those for whom we provide services, then we miss the point. I think it will be safer for me to stop at this juncture, hoping so that I'll give room for other persons to be able to make their own contributions while I wait for any questions that may be thrown my way. Thank you so very much once more for giving me the opportunity to share my thoughts on this topic this morning. Thank you. Tony?
Maji, thank you for those very incisive thoughts. You threw a very, very different perspective for a lot of us here. And I'm glad you were able to bring that perspective here. What I would say here, and some key points I noted from your talk now, is that attitude helps overall the business and also your own progression within the business. I found something very interesting which you said, and it had to do with the interpretation of the rules of professional conduct by some lawyers who have seen it as an inhibiting factor to putting their business out there. And specifically, that what you said was that it's not a blanket ban on projecting your business. It simply puts certain restrictions, like taking out adverts. So you're not entirely banned from projecting your business, just that you need to look for innovative ways of doing it. Probably what we're doing here is one way of projecting your business. But I like the fact that you're saying we must think outside the box in that regard. You also mentioned about employees also being entrepreneurs. And you asked the question, how many of them are willing to go to uncharted waters, to be creative, to think of areas that the firm is not actually dealing in at the moment? How many people actually take the firm as their own? You mentioned about ownership and believing that you're a part of it, and in doing so, trying to bring business even to the firm. I also like what you said about networking. And I think from my own perspective, what I notice a lot of times is that lawyers sometimes think networking is networking within the profession. Attending NBA meetings, attending conferences of the Nigerian Bar Association. So to a large extent, some of us limit ourselves only to people we ordinarily deal with day to day as professionals. I'm not saying that is bad because, I mean, you also market yourselves among your colleagues, but you must build a network that goes beyond your immediate environment and constituency and stretch it as far and as wide as possible. So you mentioned all these on soft skills, and I think it's very important that we have that in the back of our mind as we move ahead. You mentioned that everybody must have a business mindset. How many of us talk about profit and loss? Look at our books. See, you gave an illustration about having an equipment or a tool, and how from time to time, if you operate that equipment, you would service it, look at it, and see whether it's performing and whether it's fit for purpose. So let me thank you once more for your thoughts here. I'm sure we've taken a lot out of it, and we'll come back to you later on when we have the question and answer session. But for now, we'll move ahead to Rakiba Oloko. Rakiba is the founder and managing director of Bromshi Communications Limited. In 2012, she had her LLB in law at the University of Ilorin before proceeding on her one-year mandatory NYSC in 2013, after which she proceeded to the law school for her BL in 2014. Her professional background started in 2005 when she went for internship as a mass communication student with City People magazine, where she was retained as a freelance writer. This she did alongside her studies both at the Polytechnic and later at the university. She resigned from her freelance job in 2007 to focus her attention on building her company. Rakiba has also worked in other communications outfits like Superscreen Television, Ziegler Communications, and Cleopatra, to mention a few. Rakiba Oloko will be speaking on networking for the legal professional. So Rakiba, I welcome you to give us your thoughts on this topic. You have to unmute you have to unmute yourself. You're still muted. Okay, fine.
Mr. Chair, good morning, sir.
Good morning.
And thank you for the opportunity to speak on this at this platform. I also want to thank the organizers for their invitation, and to my co-panelists, Mr. Afam, Senior Leonard Silk, Charles Ajiboye, and Victor Befa. I'm honored to be part of the panelists to speak on this topic. I'll just give a brief discussion on some certain areas of so as the effective networking in the legal practice. Before I start, I want to mention that in my own experience, I'm still a young lawyer, and I am learning from experts like Mr. Anthony, Mr. Afam, etc. So I'm still making mistakes, and I'm learning. I know that I also learned from wrote down to start to the networking. And kindly note that this network, the point I've written here is not only for the legal profession, it cuts across. But I'll be laying emphasis on the legal profession. So first, before I start anything in my life, whether professional or anything, I always start with my spiritual guidance, because it is what has put me and placed me to where I am today in terms of seeking wisdom, direction, and the confidence that I need to approach anything I have to do. So I first of all get my spiritual guidance from God. So me, I'm more spiritual in nature. So secondly, to network in any area, particularly in the legal field, the research about the subject matter is important. For example, when I started the oil and gas, when I started lawyers in the oil and gas industry in 2015, I first of all did extensive research into the industry, the people that are there, the lawyers, the top lawyers in the industry, my clients, what it's all about, and all that. A lot of mistakes were made, but you learn along the way. So you have to, first of all, have extensive knowledge about what you want to do before you know how to network in the industry. Because if you don't have the idea of who you want to meet, how will you even know them? They might just pass you by and you will not know that an opportunity has passed you by. But when you know their faces, you know their likes, you know their dislikes, even when you can just easily access them and start your networking. Networking can be done in anywhere. Like Mr. Tony said, like you can do networking anywhere in as much as you're prepared and you have the necessary information you're looking for. Another point I want to raise is you have to build the confidence to network, to approach your subject matter. So in subject matter, I'm referring to, is it the industry stakeholders? Is it the professional? Anybody. So you have to build the confidence, and the confidence only comes when you've done adequate research about the industry and the person that you want to network with. For example, when I started then, I did a lot of research. First of all, I Googled top law firms in the oil and gas industry, top lawyers in the oil and gas industry, studied their CV, crammed, memorized their pictures to know them so that when I'm passing by their side, I know who they are, what they do, their likes and dislikes, to make it easy for me to strike up any conversation. And when they are ladies, I actually, first of all, look at their physical appearance, not only ladies, even men, so that you take their dislikes and their likes. So you start the conversation from their likes. Like if I'm meant to approach a lady now, I'll first of all look at her outfit and compliment her on that. Oh, ma, you have a lovely makeup. What's the name of your powder and all that? Very subtle form of communication. And before you know it, you've already struck up a discussion with that person. For the male, well, most usually I go for the speakers that speak at events. And if I have other people around the audience, I just you study the person and you try to look at, okay, who is this person? What does he do and all that? And just strike a conversation from there, from his hobbies or something. Maybe it can be his pen. Sir, this your pen is beautiful. And before you know it, you strike up that conversation and you introduce yourself. Always have your business card with you. So before you conclude that conversation, you exchange your cards and make sure that they know that you exist. Okay, another point I want to make is the strategic positioning. So what I do is, and I advise you do is, you position yourself strategically at specific events relating to that industry. For example, in the oil and gas industry, I not only attend NBA events, SBL, which is the commercial aspect of the law, I also attend oil and gas events a lot, both paid, both unpaid. And I strategically put myself, most times I sit on the first 5 rows and I always sit at the exit, because at that time, before a session is over, I've already marked the people I want to talk to before they leave. And this can be within like 2 minutes. Before you know it, they've disappeared. So I strategically position myself first of all, in attending those events that are related to my field or the subject matter in which I want to work or my business is positioned. Then also, I also position myself seats-wise to approach them easily, because imagine if you are sitting at the back seat or you are sitting in the middle of so many people. Before you come out from that place, the people you want to approach might have left the hall and that opportunity is gone. But when you are strategically positioned, you easily approach them even before they leave, even before a whole lot of people approach them. You are either the first or the second person to approach them on whatever, on the things you want them to know about you. So you have to strategically position yourself if you really want to network. Another point I want to make is armor dressing. I call it armor dressing because if you are dressed shabbily, you won't have the confidence to approach the people that would had impact into your business, like the stakeholders and all that. So if you are dressed well, it gives you that confidence, because even when you're approaching them, you also feel comfortable with yourself to discuss the issues you want them to know about. Then again, persistency. Well, at first, you might meet them and they might look down on you, but just continue to persist. A lot of people know me as troublemaker because I won't allow, if I've earmarked someone to know me, irrespective of whether the person gives me the positive response or not, most times the negative response, I'll continue to disturb the person till they give me the audience I'm asking for, till they acknowledge my presence and they acknowledge my business. So the persistency has worked over years. So if someone tells you no today, no doesn't mean the no will not turn to yes. Just continue to be persistent. And a lot of people, please don't use the negative word. Just continue to persist to achieve what you want to achieve. And I also have another point here: constancy in what you do. So you have to be consistent in whatever thing you do in the industry. You cannot do something today and not do it tomorrow and now do it again. No, if people know you for what you are doing, then you are in their mind. They know you for that particular thing in the field. Okay, to notice also, I think I've mentioned it before, but let me just emphasize again that attend events. There are free events and paid events. So it depends on the caliber of people you believe would influence positively your business or your practice or whatever thing you want to sell. But basically, I also believe that attending paid event most especially is investment, because it's true there are some certain people you see in a free event, you will not see them in paid event, and in paid events you have more access, more leverage to those people. So what I do is instead of investing in some other things, I prefer to invest in events, mostly paid events. I remember one event I went for, I think we paid $1,500 just for attendance. But I paid that money. In Naira, it was over 500K. I paid it, but the caliber of people I was able to meet has influenced my network to a large extent. So you kindly take note of that. So another thing I want to also I want us to note here is that while meeting these people that you are networking with and being persistent with them and letting them come to letting them know you and being in their consciousness, try to select a few of them as advisors or board members or directors in your network. Their advice matters a lot, and they can also give you directions on people to network with. Even if they don't give you those directions, merely saying so is one of my board of directors, so is one of my advisors, it eases your network, you know. So like I said, that the first 5 seconds of your speech with any stakeholder you are meeting is very key. So what you do is, immediately you've already mapped someone you want to meet at an event or anyway, you have to the first 5 seconds of what comes out of your mind will determine whether the person will listen to you or not. And that's where your research comes in. That's where your stakeholders name comes in. And you're like, oh, my name is Rakiba Oloko from Lawyers Net and Gas Network. We have so many people on our boards. Among them are so. We do this, we do that, we do this, and would like you to do this. So merely listing some of their names, incidentally, some of them might be their friends or colleagues, and they're like, okay, how is she related? How is she related to so? Let me hear from her. So that keys in their interest within that 5 seconds, and you get what you want. Another thing I want to mention is being creative. I'm sure the other speakers have spoken about it. So in whatever you do, just be creative and ensure you stand out. If you continue to do what other people are doing, then you won't make an influence, you make an impact. So for you to stand out, you have to create so many ways. There are going to be challenges, but you have to create so many ways to overcome those challenges. And that's where your creative instinct comes along. You have to, okay, if there's an hurdle here, how do I overcome this hurdle, to be able to achieve what you want to achieve, and never give up. Never give up. Never give up. No matter what, there are going to be downs and ups and downs. And during your downs, use it as your advantage instead of your disadvantage. So I see every challenge as an opportunity to open a different door and a different level for the network. So lastly, I want us to pay close attention to the quality of the content and the packaging of our business, because both goes in hand in hand. Imagine you have a quality content business. The content of your business is quality, and
Sorry, it looks like we've lost Rakiba temporarily.
packaging is not appealing. A lot of people will not even bother to open it. So the way you, hello, if you have the content and you don't have if you have the packaging and you don't have the content, it doesn't speak well. So in conclusion, I think with all these points, I've been able to share some of my few experiences with you, and I hope we can discuss further. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Rakiba, for sharing your experience with us. Like a common parlance goes, your network determines your net worth. So we cannot overemphasize this aspect or this skill in developing your practice as a business. I think it's very central to it. And I'll just recap some of the thoughts you shared with us, which I think are quite interesting. For example, you mentioned that you must have an extensive knowledge of the industry and people before you start to network. Know their faces. You said you know their faces, and I think that's very important, because sometimes you have only one opportunity to reach somebody, and it could just be that you're somewhere with the person, you just couldn't remember who it was. I hear a lot of people say, oh, I'm not good with faces. Well, I think for our kind of business we do, where it has a lot to do with people's skill, you have to try and know faces, make concerted efforts. And you also spoke about building confidence to approach your target. And you say this only comes when you've done adequate research on the industry. And I think I agree with that, is that sometimes you sit down and you want to study your prospect so that you even have the basis of a conversation when you eventually meet. Nobody wants to hear somebody who sounds like an untuned engine when you meet them. And like you said, sometimes you have only 2 or 3 minutes to make an impression with somebody who you're hoping to establish a relationship with, whether it's for business or anything else. You also talked about strategic positioning not in terms of a business, but in terms of the human body itself. For example, in conference, and I found that quite interesting about even taking out time to look for where you sit. But I think that makes common sense. I tell people that, why would you want to come to that kind of place and want to be seen and want to hide at the back? Always try and be where you think you can meet people and where you can be seen. And I think, Rakiba, that resonates quite strongly with me. Even physically position yourself in venues like that, it's important. I like seeing young people who are bold and confident. I tell people a lot of times, not necessarily, everybody's not the same. You could be shy, but when it comes to business and your profession or your vocation, there must be some level of confidence you exude, and that has a way of attracting you to people. You spoke of other things like persistence, consistency, and the quality of your content and packaging. These cannot be overemphasized. And I hope that some of us listening out there will take one or two things from what Rakiba has shared with us. So thank you once more, Rakiba, for your thoughts. We'll move ahead to our next speaker. Please, as we're going ahead, those who want are free to drop their questions on the question and answer column on the Zoom network, and we'll take them at the end, time permitting. Our next speaker is Victor Befa. Well, from what I gather, Victor is a young lawyer and partner in Bayelsa State in the law firm of Perebiega, Ajoko & Co. I hope I got that pronunciation almost right. Victor is a young lawyer, a partner, and I think he's going to give us his own perspective, coming from an entirely different environment than most of us who are in Lagos. Victor will be speaking to the topic, starting out. Being a relatively young lawyer who is running his own business, I think he's well positioned and suited to give us his thoughts on this subject. So Victor, I welcome you to share your thoughts with us for the next 10 minutes, and then we'll take the questions and answers subsequently. Victor, you have to unmute yourself.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I want to appreciate the entire leadership of the Young Lawyers Forum of the African Bar. And I also want to appreciate my fellow panelists and the speakers. I've learned a lot. I know I'm a better practitioner by virtue of this Zoom meeting. I've been asked to speak on starting out, and I had to look out the meaning of starting out, and it simply means to embark on a venture. And I think it relates to young lawyers. How do you embark on legal practice? And with the few minutes I have, I'm going to just share my experience, and I'm going to detail it into basically two subtopics. Now, the first one is gaining practice experience, because in our area of, in our profession, you cannot give what you don't have. Every time you are briefed, you are expected to perform. If your performance is bad, it may shut out other clients. If your performance is good, it opens the door to more clients. So basically, I'm going to speak on gaining practice experience and building client base. I do not want to repeat what my fellow panelists has said, and also the Silk and Mr. Charles. I will just try as much as possible to add to what they have done. Now, for a young lawyer, for you to build practice experience, the first thing to me is pupillage. Your first 3 years is your formative years. If you waste it, you would be in no man's land when people expect you to perform. I'll give you an example. During my service here, I was handed a file to do an armed robbery matter. My boss trusted me with that matter. And before going to court in chambers, he will prepare me. This is how you go about it. We're going with him for about 3 months, seeing what he was doing, knowing when to raise objections, knowing how to apply laws to issues and the rest of them. When I went to court and I had one, I think I've forgotten exactly what I did. The court, the judge was able to guide me because she asked me, when were you called? I said, I'm 7. I'm still 1 year at the bar. She was able to guide me. My mistakes were permitted. However, when you are over 3 years at the bar, I don't think any court will want to teach you your job. So it is imperative that in these 3 years, as a young lawyer, you gather sufficient practice experience. And the way you get that is, firstly, through pupillage. I do not subscribe to the opinion that immediately you are called, you should go solo, start. In as much as we don't have sufficient law firms employing young lawyers, you can as well, like in my case, after my service year, when I came to Bayelsa, I noticed the law firms were not enough. So what I was doing, I had seniors that although I am not in their law firm, but I go to for mentorship. If I have any legal issue that I do not have sufficient understanding, firstly, I call my boss at Asaba, and Ijeoma, and someone around. I would always go to Barrister Somina Jumbo, Kayode, and so many other seniors in Yenegua. I have this brief. Look at how do I go about it? So they kept mentoring me. And with time, I became, at least to an extent, experienced in those areas. And it gave me a foundation to build on. If after law school, you come out with that mentality, that mindset that you know law, you can practice, you would end up, how would I put it? You end up making unnecessary mistakes. Some things you see in the books, it is not exactly like that when it comes to practice. Jurisdiction differs. The way you move a motion in Bayelsa, where I'm based, is not the way you do that in Port Harcourt. So you need to learn from seniors. So pupillage, to me, is vital. Your first year, your second year, your third year, you should learn. Every principal, every senior has what he gives to you. There are some areas of law that even your principal, the law firm you work, or whoever is mentoring you may not have sufficient knowledge. It behoves on you. It is your duty to look for other seniors within that jurisdiction or far that can mentor you on that particular aspect of law. For instance, election petition, which is very fruitful in my terrain. My principal, the partner in my law firm, he is not grounded there. I have to look for means. I approach so many seniors. Even if it means not paying me, I want to work with you when you are doing this particular brief. And I want to learn. At one point, it will get to my top where I would have such brief. What would I do? How do I respond to such tasks? So I think the first thing is pupillage and mentorship. Ask people, build your capacity. And this does not take away the place of personal development. That's the next thing. After pupillage and mentorship, personal development. You have to strive to understand. Some persons are specialized, like my sister, oil and gas. You have to study every detail about that particular aspect of law so that you become a because that field. How do you get that? Personal development. How much? Young lawyers, I do not subscribe to the idea that you don't have money to buy books. You don't have, because of you are just starting up. I was never paid salary, but I wanted to be a good lawyer. So you must invest. You must invest. You must buy law reports. Now we have the opportunity of the law pavilion. You have to spend money. The little you have to see if you can improve.
Okay, because we're short for time, I think we might proceed, and if we have it, we might take some of Victor's thoughts along the line later on. We'll shortly go into question and answer session. But I'll just discuss one or two things Victor mentioned that I found interesting, and particularly he spoke about pupillage and mentorship. And I think there's a divergence of opinion on that issue. I hear some people say, oh, I never worked for anybody. I started outright as a fresh wig, while some say you must get some form of pupillage or mentorship. But it's interesting when you hear from a young practitioner who says he holds the belief that you must get some form of pupillage or mentorship. And he even put a time frame to it. He said 3 years, that you would require about 3 years. And that if you don't have it, you find yourself in the wilderness, to use his own words. So I think I share that view too, that everybody needs some form of pupillage or mentorship, no matter how little, because there's so much that you learn in the unspoken, not only in the spoken. There's so much to learn in the unspoken, not only in the spoken. And so he says he doesn't subscribe to going solo once you are called. And he also spoke about personal development and about the need to study in details everything about an area of law you want to specialize in, or to build your practice on. And spoke about investing in law reports, law pavilion, and the like. And something I always say to that is that nobody will have the confidence to invest in you if you don't want to invest in yourself. I mean, even the financial institutions, if you come to them and say, look, I need some funding for my business, I have this business idea, the first thing they will ask you is for your own equity participation. All they are simply trying to say is that the fact that you have decided as a person or as an organization to invest in that thing you have a belief in, then it also gives them confidence to do that. Victor, if your sound is good, I might give you 2 minutes to round up. But if it's not, I'll have to cut you off. Just 2 minutes, please.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. I'm so sorry, my network here is very bad. Okay, basically, I was talking about building client base. Now, we have to also transfer our friends, families, and everyone we are close to from being just friends to clients when it comes to rendering legal services. The problem we have is we believe that, for instance, we can do deed of conveyance for our uncles, our relations for free. And you don't know that from that aspect, they would tell another person that, that our brother, our lawyer, he would do services for you for free, even if he's going to, before you know, you start undercharging yourself. Someone that ordinarily should be your client becomes a problem to you. At one point, you start telling them, why are you finding people that are coming to me to do only free jobs? But you started it. If from the onset you said, when it comes to this is my business, this is my practice, you have to pay. And this is what is paid. They will run with that, like what the scripture says, right? The vision plain. He that readeth it may run with it. They will run with the aspect that, wow, if you are briefing Victor for this, this is what you pay. And he's very good at his job. So that is one aspect. You must transfer, because your client base is people you know, people that can trust you with legal services. So I think I'll just round up here. I'll just round up here because I've said a lot of things. And adding to what my seniors, Mr. Charles and the CEO and the last panelist that spoke, I think if we add just these little tips that has helped me personally, I think we'll do well. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, and the entire Young Lawyers Forum of the African Bar. It's an opportunity. I do not take it for granted. God bless you.
Thank you very much, Victor, for your thoughts and contributions. I must say that you've given me a very different perspective of the practitioner operating out of Bayelsa State. I'm quite impressed with your thought process and generally your perception and understanding of how a law practice should be run. I look forward to hearing from you in future. I also note one particular thing you mentioned now. I like the part you spoke about, and I tend to say that with a lot of people. I get people who walk up to me and say, oh, look, Tony, either I just relocated or I'm just starting out of law, I did something else before. How do I get all these big clients? And I said, that's what you said. Your clients are always, your first clients are always your friends and family. Everybody has friends and family. The idea is that whether you have been able to project yourself as somebody who can solve their problem, and as a professional, I think that determines to a large extent whether you'll be able to harness that relationship in terms of clientele. And like you said, you need to manage the relationship all the same, because the tendency in our own environment, considering our own family system and structure, is for friends and family to think that just because you are a friend and family, it means that your services are there for them for free. So like I tell people, it's like a marriage. It is how you enter the marriage and how you sell yourself. That determines to a large extent how that marriage goes down the line. And that it's important that we set the boundaries in that kind of relationship. And I think the important thing is to explain to them that you're providing value and that in any case, they will pay for that value, whether it was you or to a third party. And it's much better that that income they would spend anyway comes to somebody they know. Thank you for that. So we'll go now to our questions and answers session. We have about 20 minutes for that. And I can't seem to find any questions on the platform here. So we would welcome questions from participants who are online. I hope Marcos Fernandez will be able to coordinate this, maybe possibly by waving your hands, and then we can allow you to ask your question. But let's keep our questions short and sharp, and one question per person, please.
Hello.
Yes, Grace, please go ahead.
Okay, good morning, everyone. And thank you very much for all those who have spoken. My question is to Ms. Oloko. Okay, sorry, I'm saying Miss, I'm not very sure if she's married. So the question is really this. She explained very clearly, and I really appreciate her explanation, as to positioning yourself. And a lot of what she spoke about was respect to you appearing physically at webinars or at conferences. But with this new normal, where a lot of these things are done online, I don't know if you could throw some light as to how we can go about physical positioning of yourself where you're attending a meeting or a conference virtually. Thank you.
Unfortunately, Rakiba, I don't know if she's still here because she said she had to step out to attend another meeting. Rakiba, are you still here? Okay, she's not here. I don't know if any of the other panelists would want to take that question or have any thoughts on it. Okay, I hear Rakiba has left.
Okay, maybe I should just share some thoughts, Mr. Chairman. Can I go ahead?
Please do.
Okay, so it is normal that in the new age we find ourselves, we'll find it difficult to sit in the first 5 rows and at the exit point of a Zoom conference, or a Google Meet, or a Microsoft Teams meeting. However, you can make yourself relevant. First, you're already doing it rightly. So, whoever has just found a way to create some relevance, bring some attention, and bring attention to the person. So when you come for online sessions, you have to understand that online sessions are even better opportunities for you to show off yourself. Now, you can come to this kind of a session and choose that throughout the session, you would keep your video off, you keep your mics on, you keep your mics on mute, and then you will choose not to say, or you will choose not to say anything all through the process. And you also choose to drop a question, because once you drop a question, one thing that happens is that the panelists and every other person that is attending the conference or the meeting gets to see your question. Now, if your name is properly written, then they get to see the name. If you look through the list of participants for this particular conference, you see people's names. It's commonplace that you see people go for attend conferences like this, like people that are presently on this conference now. I see someone on the attendance list whose name is OSSY, maybe OC, maybe it's Osikena, maybe Osinachuku, I don't know, but OC. We'll never be able to relate with an OC. There's somebody else that also has the full name that is Huawei Y6 or something. We'll never find that person. That will not be a good way of having visibility. But if somebody else is there and says his name is Damilola Kayode, you see that name is there. Assuming or Chinedu, seeing names there that are very clear. Dan Whiskey, but just saying Dan Whiskey is somebody I know physically. So I'm saying Dan Whiskey and I know Dan Whiskey is on this particular conference. So if we like it or not, one or two of those names will stick. They stick better when you go into the chat room too, and you find someone like Chisom Cherry Sugoi who is making comments there. I'm mentioning those names because I can read them. These are not people I know. You have also spoken, and then you could also speak so brilliantly well that you know, I want to just check what's the name of the person that is speaking, especially if the camera is set to speaker view. Now, the mode of engagement online is slightly different from the mode of engagement real time, and these are just some of the very little things that happens now. That those that matter is just like you know, champions. So I will also be on this video on this conference also. The organizers have not specifically requested that we put on our cameras, but you will notice that most of the panelists have in and out tried to keep their cameras on. And so whether you like it or not, I'm meeting Mr. Victor Beva for the first time today, and I'm looking at his face, and I'm forming impressions, I'm having an opinion, and listening to him. We have met.
Okay, thank you for that question. I think Grace was the person who asked the question, but I think something Charles said that's very instructive is that if I were you, I would probably have my camera on if this for me was to be a networking opportunity, because, for example, I've not met Charles before or Victor, but their images will be ingrained in my mind after today. For those who have not met the SAN resplendent in his waistcoat and bow tie, some of them have met him today and you can't miss him from where he is. And you can, and even he himself is on a bow tie. It's for a reason. It's all part of how we try and develop our networks and our personality and what we call our brand. But I think it's important for something like this. I can understand if you're otherwise engaged or for one reason or the other that you don't want to come out and be seen. But if you're talking about networking, I would believe that's important that if you were to ask a question, that at least I would have known Grace after today, apart from the fact that you asked a question that I think is quite instructive and relevant. Thank you. Any other questions? Before the SCN runs, I hope we can have some questions directed at him. And by the way, asking questions is also a good way of also strategically positioning yourselves. I tell people it's very important in any forum you go to, you try and do that. Do we have any other question? Okay, I think somebody just dropped one in the Q&A. This question is directed to Victor. It's from Blessing Durumba. Victor, she's asking, you mentioned while speaking that the first 3 years of a young lawyer's professional life, that sentence is not complete, but she says, how will you strike a balance between finding an area to specialize in and gaining experience in that same field within 3 years? So she's asking, how will you strike a balance between finding an area to specialize in and gaining experience in that same field within 3 years? Victor, over to you.
Now, thank you for that question. Basically, I can help with how to gain experience in that field, but how to choose a specific field, that is left to you. What would you believe would bring the best of you? I don't know what is driving you. Some persons, they are driven by money. They believe this particular field would give me sufficient money, I'll be able to put food on the table for myself and my family. That may be your driving force. I don't know. Some persons, they believe this particular field, I'll be able to become the best of myself. So that is, but striking a balance basically between finding a particular area of law to practice in and also building experience in that same field. What I would just advise is, I haven't chosen a particular area of law to practice. As someone that is young in that particular field, you have to look for all the available materials to build yourself. It includes what I said earlier, pupillage and mentorship. It also includes personal development. See how any material you have in that particular field, you build on it. If there are seminars on that particular chosen field, you have to try as much as possible to attend. You do within your limits what you can do. That's basically what I can contribute to that question, if I understand the question very well. If I understand the question, that's basically it. Don't wait until you become a pro. Keep growing. Keep growing in that particular area of specialization. Keep growing until you become a voice. The big, our Leonard Silk, I don't think he just grew into an SAN. I believe he was growing little by little.
Thank you. I hear Rita wants to ask a question. You can unmute yourself and go ahead.
Good morning, everyone. I don't have a question to ask. I just wanted to make some contribution. I don't know if I'll be allowed to do that.
Can't hear you.
So good morning, everyone. Well done to the team for coming up with this topic for this session. However, I don't have a question. The host had actual seminar or any social media handle and ask people to follow you and also follow people back. That way you can continue whatever conversations you have after the webinar has ended. And then with regards to specialization, I think my own experience is you just have to figure out what catches your fancy, what is that area of law that you find really interesting, and then begin to build on that. And start to network with people within that area, start creating content in that area. Basically, like Charles said, personal development. You have to do your own personal development and also network with people within that space. You also have to look out for people within the international space, see what they are doing, and see how you can improve on that. Domesticate it, basically. That's all I have to say.
Thank you for that contribution. Thanks a lot. I see one or two other questions from the Q&A on the platform. Aderonke Peters is asking, a lot of paid trainings are quite expensive. What do you advise a young lawyer who can't afford to pay to do in such cases? I think she intended this for Rakiba Oloko, talked about going for trainings, paid and unpaid. Rakiba is not here, but I think what I'll say is this. I don't know if you're in Lagos, but I know for a fact that the Continuing Professional Development Committee of the Nigerian Bar Association Lagos branch has been undertaking a lot of free trainings and programs. In the last 3 years, if I'm right, even going back to Chukwuka Ikwazom SAN's tenure, I know for a fact that there's been a lot of emphasis on giving training, free training and conferences for particularly young lawyers. So I'm a bit, I cringe a bit when I see those trainings taking place, and I don't see a lot of young lawyers I think should actually ordinarily attend, participate, because in this our business, we are knowledge merchants. If you don't have the knowledge, then you'll be like a fish out of water. And that's where we start from. So yes, it's difficult to pay, but like anything in life, there has to be a bit of sacrifice. There are so many free, with the advent of COVID, there are so many online training seminars and the like going on. The issue is that, one, you must first of all have an interest in, and a hunger and a desire to want to learn. And if you do that, then it means you will take time to look for the courses. It's just the same way somebody who is hungry to go and get education, maybe postgraduate education, who takes time to go and look for the schools and the faculties and the programs that either have scholarships or other benefits that can elevate you, make the financial burden less for you. But I know for a fact that there's a lot going on right now in Lagos branch. Even the monthly knowledge sharing sessions they have, I have had reasons when I see some of the topics to want to join, because as old as I am, there's something new to learn every time. So it's important that I'm glad that you're interested in training, but let's start from the known to the unknown. At least everybody knows Lagos State branch does a monthly knowledge sharing session. I think that's the starting point. They've spoken from everything conceivable under the sun, taxation, maritime, and they brought some of the best brains and minds and practitioners in those fields. So that's my own suggestion, but I hope I've been able to give you some help in that area. Let me look at other questions. Somebody's asking, I think it's Dushima Adagusu Ungutswen. What are the practical ways one can publicize the law business or visible to prospecting? I think you want to say, or be visible to prospecting clients, considering that we can't undertake advertisement or where the clients are not even IT compliant. Can I leave this question to the learned SAN?
Hello?
Can I leave this question to the learned? I'll ask the question again. Dushima is asking, and I'm directing it at you because I think you spoke to this earlier on. She's saying, or he, what are the practical ways one can publicize the law business or be visible to prospective clients, considering that we can't undertake advertisement or where the clients are not even IT compliant?
Thank you very much. Now, I keep saying this. The rules of professional conduct does not prohibit advertisement. If Dushima takes out time to read Rule 39, it says, subject to the provisions of Rule sub-rule 2 and 3 of that rule, that a lawyer shall do so, 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 and so in the advertisement and promotion of his practice. It's written there. People publish articles, people write to organizations, giving their firm's profile and talking about the things the firm can do. And now
we appear to have lost Mazi Osigwe. We might have to come back to him later. Somebody else is asking, let me see.
Before now, we are hitherto unknown. I give you an example of a UK company, Boohoo, that sells cheap clothing. Zoom, do something creative. Think out of the box. I may not be able to tell Doshima what to do. She knows where she's based. She knows what the possibilities are there. And she needs to carve out a niche for herself. Find a way of announcing her presence and her services without violating the rules of professional conduct. I hope she finds my little answer useful. But let her not believe she can't do certain things, and find the things she can ethically do and figure out the best way of doing that and getting to the targeted clients. Who are these target clients? How did she even sit in her house to conclude that these target clients do not have access to the internet? And I'm sure the client may have WhatsApp on their phone. Let her figure it out. Lawyers are problem solvers. She has identified the problem. Part of her ability to surmount this will be by finding a solution to this problem she has identified. Many companies have increased their earnings during this lockdown, during this COVID-19 period, while some are going bust. She should try not to be like those that went bust. She should try to make her practice of law not to be like the dinosaur that could not innovate and died out. Thank you.
Thank you, Leonard S.A. Considering our time is up, I will implore all those who still have questions, and I see there are still a few questions on the platform that they can direct their questions here or to the organizers, and their questions will be responded to. Just before we round up, I'll just share a few of my own thoughts too on some of the issues we've discussed generally. And because for me, I'm very passionate about this subject and about young lawyers taking the profession and the practice seriously. You guys are in the internet age. It is your time. And you have a lot of advantages you don't know you have. For a typical example I give to people is this. I'll soon be 30 years in the bar. Now, whether you like it or not, we are several commercial firms all over the place. At our level, we're not too good at sharing information or strategies. But a young wig, the advantage you have is that you can know if you're running your own practice, if you don't find a colleague to ask, you can even ask a colleague who is in a big commercial firm what actually applies. And there's a tendency to share information freely at that level, as against the way the owners of a business would want to do it. But I always tell people, the first thing I'd always say is that, just like in any other business, did you just wake up and buy laws of the Federation of Nigeria and your other books? Or did you actually sit down to pen a business plan? And I tell people that the business plan, I see situations where people walk to me regularly and say, so I want to start my firm, I want to start my business. And the first thing I always say is go back in your room, in your quiet moment, and put down in writing how you want to take this thing going forward. Probably 7 out of 10, I don't get a response. After that, the person goes, because the person thinks there's one magic wand that will probably make that business work. But he doesn't know you are the only person who you are the visionary. And you need to put that in writing and have the plan with it. So for anybody starting a business, whether it's a law firm, whether it's in practice, you need a business plan. That's what I would say for the young people. And you must, in doing that, wear a dual hat. You obviously wear the hat of a lawyer and you wear the hat of an entrepreneur. And that's what I think a lot of us tend to forget. I I can say here, if I'm asking the people who are tuned in here, how many people here can tell me, for example, their cash flow requirements as a business for the next 6 months? How many people can discuss on issues like the weighting of their fees in your business between commercial and litigation work? So when you sit down and look at your business, can you stay at where you sit? How many people can talk of their budget estimates to run for another year? How many people have done analysis of their fees per client and to know what percentage of your business does each client bring? All these are necessary in planning your business. How many of us know the season in which we attract more business and why? Is there a particular time of the year we usually attract more business? How many people know your account receivables position as a business and your average collection period? So those are all the issues some of the issues I'm talking about. And then you must have basic financial knowledge. But all these are part of the things we must strive to do as professionals. And when you need professional help, get it. I can tell you for free that all the big commercial firms have from time to time gotten consultants to analyze their business and tell them where to go, how to reorganize or restructure their business. Everybody can't afford PwC or KPMG, but there are people who provide those services for less. And I think we can use them from time to time to help us look from outside in and give us useful tips on how we can pull our business. And then the last one I'll say is this. I heard that recently and it resonated, is that a lot of times we tend to say, do what you're passionate about. And I read or watched where somebody says, it's not about what you're passionate about. What do you have a skill set for? Comparative advantage, what comes easy to you? You can have a passion for singing, but if you have a croaky voice, you will never be successful as a singer. Passion alone sometimes can't get you there. What is it that you have comparative advantage of? Think about it. If you understand it, then you move it. So it's not necessarily passion, but it's what you have a skill or a calling for, and it's to understand that. But with that, I'd like to thank all the speakers for a very, very riveting session. Like I said, they were as diverse as it can be, different jurisdictions. I'm Nwaochei, SM, my good friend. I don't know where he practices from now, but he's all over Nigeria. He's in Abuja, he's in Lagos, he's in Nnewi. Rakiba does her own things, not only legal practice, but she does a lot of training and she runs her business, which also services the legal profession. Charles Ezebosi, thank you also for your own perspective from Penthouse Law. It's interesting when you see young people who are passionate about this profession and are thinking with intent about how to drive their business. And Victor Befa, all the way from Bayelsa State, who as a young man has set out also to start his own business and seems to be headed in the right direction. I hope we've been able to bring some illumination to those who have tuned in. And let me once more thank the organizers of this conference, African Bar Association, the Nigerian Young Lawyers Forum, and wish them all the best of their endeavors as they go ahead. Thank you very much, and thank you for your time.